Chapter 4 Cooking Lessons. After the snack disaster, Ginger was not welcomed at Espy's elementary school, so she finished her kindergarten year at home with her mother. The Candy Witch was a pretty smart cookie who was able to cover most objects, but her favorite way was to teach was in the kitchen. It was an ordinary kitchen. It wasn't an ordinary kitchen. One side was dedicated to the art of creating evil recipes. The other side was set up for making yummy, enticing treats. On some days, Ginger sat on a stool while her mother taught her how to brew potions that would make people burp fire and hiccup steam. Other days, she'd sit on the opposite stool and learn how to mix buttercream frosting and milk chocolate. The goodies must be pretty so no one suspects that the recipe is evil, her mother said. Ginger didn't like the evil recipe days. The foulest ingredients were required, like rotten toadstools, snail slime, and worm casings. If it grew in a swarm or crawled along the moist forest floor, it usually ended up in the pantry. She accompanied her mother on field trips to collect slugs, grubs, but Ginger refused to cut up spiders or dice wiggling worms, and she hated the cauldron with its weird briny scents and thick bubbling brews. How will you grow up to be a witch if you don't learn how to toil over a cauldron? Her mother asked worriedly. I'm not going to be a witch, Ginger replied. Even though she was very young, she already knew this in her heart. But, lovey-dovey, your destiny is already written. You must follow your story. If you don't, she shuddered. I dread to think of what might happen. Ginger folded her arms and gave her mother a look of determination. I'll figure it out. Her mother cackled. I suspect you will. While Ginger didn't like the evil recipe days, she certainly loved the treat-making days. She liked rolling dough and cutting it into perfect shapes. She liked grating chocolate into curlicues and pouring syrups into lollipop molds, but because her mother insisted on teaching the other icky stuff and the fun lessons didn't happen often for Ginger, she wanted to learn more about baking treats. So one night, after the Candy Witch had gone to sleep, Ginger crept downstairs. Though she never cooked on her own before, she was determined to make something. She poured through the pantry, searching between bundles of dried roots, bags of swamp weeds, and jars of pickled worms. She found a couple of hen eggs, a bag of flour, some butter, and some goat milk. Then she found a recipe in a non-poisonous cookbook and made herself a throne cake. The first few attempts didn't go well. The first was burnt on the bottom, the second was raw in the middle. But she tried again and finally got the hang of it, ending up with a short stack, perfectly golden, at crisp edges. Dawn was rising. She took her plate outside and sat it on the front stoop. What you got there? The milk boy asked as he set two of the goat milks on the steps. He was apparently new on the job because he didn't seem to realize the house belonged to the Candy Witch. "Throne cakes," Ginger said, and she gave him one. He gobbled it up. "That's the best throne cake I've ever had. Who made it?" "I did," Ginger said proudly. The milk boy parked his donkey cart, then sat next to Ginger. "Can I have another?" "Sure." And that was the day Ginger learned a very important lesson. She could make friends by cooking delicious treats.